I think with that, let's get to another design topic. We can find one. So for the folks watching, you got anything you want to throw to Rob and I, other than playing disturbing games on the dark web? And welcome, Icy. Yeah, we do these talks every week. We have a Discord channel down below where we talk about game design and a whole lot of other weird topics, I'm sure. We got 1 hour to the Super Bowl that neither Rob and I are watching, so I think everybody is busy there. And the best part is you can see how it's slowly but surely getting dark outside my window. You can watch the day transition.
Yeah, mine transitions from light to dark because it's very cloudy here. Current indie market or hidden superpowers in a game?
Not sure what hidden superpowers would be, like hidden mechanics, or just giving the player hidden abilities as you unlock.
Like a code that they would use for testing that is God mode or something. The indie market thing we do go over frequently. It's a tough it's a tough thing to go over because it's often a very sad. Sad. It's as the years go on, the indie market becomes more and more depressing.
Going back to the first part of our talk.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else?
So it's like time controlled. So like it is. It makes me depressed because it is. It's so. I wonder. I mean, I do kind of. I'm curious if many people are aware of the etymology of red ocean, or what it means as opposed to blue ocean. For an indie game developer, there's nothing but red ocean out there. Even in VR, where it's maybe Epic now is a purple ocean, which people use that term as well. But like sharks in the water.
And it doesn't seem to be getting any easier. Again, the whole when we were talking about Steam a few months ago with their algorithm not showing games for a long time. I think even like that game that I was playing, that Void Rains Upon Her Heart, that wasn't considered a video game by Steam for a long time.
Yeah, I think that when it comes down to it, indie games are easier and easier to make and harder to sell. So that is a bad formula for success.
Yeah.
And that's not to say you can't make it, and that's not to say you can't even make a decent living. But it's one of those where you got to be realistic about the goals, and we just like the whole first part of our discussion is actually a very good starting point for an indie developer. I feel like to navigate and learn. So
yeah.
I would actually recommend people watch that first part. I think we did pretty good on
that. Yeah, so everybody watching this live right now, go back and watch that again. Like saying, I thought indie was about art. Yep, I mean, but at the end of the day, though, you can't. I guess what's that expression? You can't live off of just art. Like
right.
Art doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, I feel like an indie game it depends who you talk to, as we've discussed many times before, Mike, and you're probably more aware than most of what we've discussed on this. But like, and I think I already know that I agree with you on the topic of what defines an indie game studio and what defines like a not indie game studio. And I feel like the art side comes from more ambitious college kids who've come up with their most creative game in the world, and it's very art, and they are bound to the vision that is their game. But yeah, it's unlikely that'll make money.
And it's very hard when you have to talk about money like that, as the news is saying. Like, you can make the best damn art in the world, but you don't have food or a place to live. It's not going to get you that far.
News also, the question is not how many homeless people do with make artistic games and stuff. I think it's more of how many people tried to make art with games and wound up homeless. I feel like that is the more apt question these days.
And it's a very weird situation when you're trying to put something together to earn money, because money really does change matters. Like, a developer got in touch with me about wanting me to like read the script, for like his Kickstarter or like his Indiegogo campaign, and he was only offering $50 for that. And when I asked people about that, like, one person said, you should ask them like for $200, to do a whole reading for like a minute and a half. Like, I can't do that. I thought I would say, sorry, $100, and he found that so high that he just like broke off all conversation. And it's tough, like, whenever you're trying to bring in money into this, because again, I said this to other people as well. Like, some like family members said, well, why don't you just do something for like $5, or do like a little thing, and who cares? That at the end of the day, you have to get what you're worth. And again, when you're skilled at something, you kind of have to expect money, or you expect a good amount of money, just as if the person who's asking you for it. I gave you an example about it. A few years ago, I spoke to one of my PR contacts with help doing PR for Game Wisdom. And he was going to do it, but he was going to charge me, like, even his quote-unquote friend price was out of my limit at that moment. And again, like, on one hand, you can think, oh, he's just trying to screw you out of money. But on the other hand, he's been doing it for many years now. Like, he has skills that I don't. And you have to realize that everybody is trying to live off of what they're able to do.
Yeah, and news, I totally hear you, and that really does go first discussion. I think you might get a lot out of it, because it's a very harsh reality. And to what you're saying, Josh, I think that in the end, it's absolutely true. I'm one of those people who does not, like, I'm very giving with like my time and my money and all that stuff, and it does not help me whatsoever. And if I want to, like, what you do is a very difficult thing to make money off of. And because you have a skill, and because you spend so much time honing that, and you dedicate your life to it. Someone comes and asks you've spent so much time doing it, and they're asking for basically all of your expert guidance that you've earned over years for $50. And there's certainly a point in time where you might be like, okay, or what have you, depending on the situation. But yeah, if they're asking you to spend several hours of your time looking at something and responding to it, there's value. There really is value there. I remember I had my own thing when I was with Indie Voyage. A guy asked, basically came and said, "Here's a game. Could you publish it?" And he sent me his schedule, and I looked at it, and I said, "I don't think this is a realistic schedule." And he basically took super offense and never talked. Well, actually, sent me a very rude email after that, and then I never heard from him again. And it's one of those things where you got to either be open to what the expert has to say, or you've got to find out what it is you're looking for. Like, how badly do you want that advice? And are you willing to accept that advice? It is.
Oh, and like, see the whole issue about that. One of the libraries around here, like the very first library I got in touch with, I did their Comic-Con event. This was back in 2016, I think. And we did it for like $90. I think it was like $90 or $100, something like that. And this was before I even thought about doing presentations. And then over that year, I started doing them. I got decent amount of money. I think I get like $175, $200 at another library. So I went back to them and I asked them, I would love to come out. Like, sure, would you do it for $60? I'm like, this other place is offering me like $200. And I'm like, well, could you come up at all? And they're like, no, we can't. And it's like, what do you want me to do? Like, you want me to basically like an 80% discount? And
well, it's not fair to the people paying you $200.
Exactly. And that's what I thought. Like, I can't accept this, and we were talking about this before. I even talking about I even had this conversation with a contractor who came into my house a few weeks ago. That you can't, be an SOB anymore online. I know that sounds. I'm trying not to swear as much. Everybody knows I'm a rampant swearer here on these streams. But you can't be malicious. You can't cheat people anymore, which is actually pretty great. As we've said, the internet remembers everything. And like if I would have done that and said, oh, for $78 instead of $200, I'll do it, right away. If word got back to somebody else that I charged $200 for, that would be it. I would be done. Because who could trust me after that?
Right.
It remembers until it doesn't. Yet, but then all of a sudden, when you're trying to do something, it will remember again, as we've seen these last few years.
Yeah. Oh boy, yeah. It's we've gotten into some topics today.
Yeah. Oh, and as Mike's saying, we're probably need to believe all the. Oh yeah, like we said, there's so much crap when it comes to video game discussions on the internet that it's very hard to find something that's reputable. Again, I'm sure you've probably watched a few of those videos, Rob. 10 essential tips of making a successful game. Do these 5 things, and you will make the perfect platformer. How to sell your game in 2 minutes or less. I was just talking about this on Twitter the other night, that like 60-second and less videos are just completely worthless to me. Because there is no way in hell you're going to review a video game in 60 seconds and it's going to matter. I'm sorry, there's no way. I just recorded 2 videos yesterday that I'm going to be posting on the YouTube channel, and even talking as fast as I could, and even just talking about the design, they were still 10 minutes long. Like I can't make it any shorter.
Yeah, it reminds me of Siskel and Ebert. For those of you who remember, their whole rating system was thumbs up or thumbs down way back before Facebook or whatever, and they would spend like 5-10 minutes on every movie they reviewed, discussing it and telling people why they gave it a thumbs up or thumbs down. And that was the brilliance of it, was there 2 very different opinions, like arguing about whether or not a movie was good. And it does it as a viewer, as someone who's looking to watch a movie or play a game. It's very valuable for me to read an article that is in depth, or watch a video that's in depth, because otherwise, all I'm getting is someone saying 4 stars. I loved it.
Like when I talked with John Brieger about this, when it comes to playtesting, if all you do is listen to someone saying this is the best game ever, I love it, that is as worthless to you as someone saying this game sucks, I'm never going to play it again. But there are a lot of people who don't see it like that. We talked about this a few weeks ago, that there are developers out there like, I don't want any negative reviews. I don't want people to say anything bad about my game. I find that toxic, or I hate it. I don't want anything bad. It's like, then how do you learn? How do you improve if you're not getting that information? And I want to point to News's quote there. When it comes to game dev, there's no right way to make a game, but tons of bad ways. That should be embroidered on something. We should get a neon sign and put that up. Yeah. And then Mike's saying there's no wrong. Oh yeah, there's many wrong ways. There's so many ways for a game to fail. It's not even funny.
But you can always say, like, about your bad game, oh, I did it on this. Then you succeeded.
Yeah. And like we talked about this before, that Goat Simulator game, I'm sure there are tons of independent developers who despise that studio for Goat Simulator.
Yeah, you're always going to find the random success story for someone who did something the wrong way. We talked about Dwarf Fortress. The game is brilliant and it's very well done. But the UI is abysmal, and their business model is equally abysmal. Yep. And they just happen to make it, and it's a lovely game. It's one of the greatest Sims ever made. But don't copy them, or else you'll fail.
Yep. And again, sometimes you just never know when something's going to work, and that is horrible to hear. And again, it came with this like depressing theme right here. Like I was mentioning on the Discord channel that you saw like the news, like Jack Black has his own video game channel now on YouTube, right, Rob?
No, I did not see that.
Well, that happened, and so far the channel has I think 1.5 million subscribers. He's had 6 videos and a collective total of about 10 minutes of footage. and
Jeez.
there's nothing on there. And like watching that kind of hurt me a little bit. That was able to earn that amount of recognition for nothing, and we're still growing slowly over here.
Yeah, I mean it is. He's Jack Black. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Schilling got gobs and gobs of money from the state of Rhode Island. That, as it being from games, that insults the heck out of me. I'm like, yeah, I know he's a fan of games, but that doesn't mean anything. Why are you giving him money just because he's a famous person?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what gets me about all these investors in esports. What do you know? Why are you giving your money to something you know nothing about? That seems very irresponsible.
And it's the same thing with YouTube. Like all these issues that YouTube has had was with them just blindly following someone because they brought them in all kinds of money and not really doing any more research about them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only do that so many times before people are just like, yeah, you're just being stupid with your money.
Yeah, I think we've stumbled onto an interesting topic here of those odd people who do it the wrong way and succeed. Why, and then how disheartening that is to the people who do it the right way, and how bad of an example it sets for future people who want to do things like you say. You have this YouTube video, you're making tons of research, tons of work, tons of community management, and making yourself a staple and being very consistent about it, and then someone comes in and just says, hey, I'm going to make something about games, and then suddenly any 30-second video they makes them tens of thousands of dollars because they have people follow them everywhere.
Yeah. And again, it's very hard, and the same thing as the chat's been talking about when it comes to game design. There are no formal rules for game development, and that's great. It goes back to our first point. But again, you can watch videos about people talking about video games until the end of days, but how does that help you when it comes to making a game? You can watch a video saying do this and don't do that, and then watch another video saying do this, don't do that. Like, how are you supposed to learn via that?
Yeah, it is interesting. And then you go on Gamasutra and you have postmortems that tell you here's what we did wrong, and you see that the game sold millions of copies, and you're like, what do you get to tell me that for? Yeah. Because you never see the games that actually fail miserably, because no one wants to admit that, and no one wants to read about a game they've never heard of before.
Oh, yeah. Or the opposite effect. Somebody's saying, I think you must do this, this, and this, and you're an idiot if you don't. And then you ask, so how many games have you released? None. Or how many games have sold? Well, I made 3 games. None of them sold 2 copies. Okay, so why should I even listen to you?
Yeah, but then that's the thing, right? It's listen to the person who failed so that you don't follow in their footsteps. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like people who are, honestly, I feel like people who are on the outside, while they may be ignorant as to what happens on the inside, certainly someone like you who's a dedicated reviewer and very knowledgeable, who has researched the insider's view, has that ability, has that luxury of being someone who can say, this is how it should be done, or this is how, because you talk to the people who failed and who've succeeded, and who've done both, which usually is the case. Mm-hmm. But yeah, saying something from the outside, you do have an interesting perspective, and you should never discount someone who's looking from the outside in, saying, well, why obviously did you not do this way? Because a lot of times when you're looking at the forest, you don't see the trees, but you do see something that's blatant, while someone doesn't see the forest for the trees, as it were. And yeah, that's a good lesson to learn, I think, is that you do shut yourself out from outside opinion who aren't in the know. And so as a lot of indie developers will just kind of nestle themselves in a community of other indie developers, which I've seen become kind of pointless. Everyone likes to say nice things about everyone else's game, and the person who comes in and starts saying negative stuff, they're shunned. I've seen that happen before, and it can be bad. It can be bad for developers to do that, because you need to go into a community of people who are interested in buying your game, not people who are interested in talking about their own game, I should say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've gotten into a few of those groups on Facebook, and it's just worthless information to me. Like, I watch like somebody's footage, and it's like this like very stilted, like what you were showing me with that Empire of Devil kind of thing. Yeah. And I'm like watching, going, oh my god, this is horrible. And I see like 30 comments say, that's great, man, keep going, this is awesome, you gotta keep doing it, great, awesome. Like, no, like, this is not going to sell a game. Like, what you're showing me, this is not going to sell. And like we said in the first part, people don't like to hear bad news. Nobody likes to do that. And it's very hard, I think, for a lot of people to accept that just because somebody's coming in and saying it, like, they may have an expertise in that. There's still, I know, people on Gamma Sutra who discount what I say. Like, if I talk negatively about a game or say something like that, they'll just say, oh, well, what do you know?
Right. Yeah, one of the greatest groups I was ever in was a board game design in Los Angeles, and it was a group of about 10 people, 10 to 15 people, who kind of, some of them came when they came when they could, and basically we'd have 2 or 3 people who were able to showcase their games, and because not everyone can showcase their games on the same day, or else it's pointless. So you have a group of people playing a game, and they'd be like ridiculously harsh, because some of the board game community, they are like super. They're brutal, and so they'll let you know if something's terrible and what you have to fix. But the point is, you keep coming back with your game, and you'll keep getting advice, and your game will grow positively. So if you can find a group who's willing to like work with you through the ugly times, and you're willing to work with them through their horrible comments about you, you're going to wind up for the better. Like, don't get into a group that's just trying to like sell you their game and just talk about the industry or whatever. Like, you got to go to a group who's willing to give you hard advice, and maybe even a group like that might even be willing to support you once you launch, and likely will be able to successfully do that. So, because everyone has friends and they all play games, not just make them, and that's important.
Yeah, and as Mike said, there are people who only want that kind of safe space when it comes to talking about video games. And while there's nothing wrong with that, that's not how you build a business. That's not how you build something that's going to be a successful product. Because guess what? Every one of your ideas is probably going to suck when you first begin it. Again, it wouldn't be, if it was a great idea, it would already be finished. But you need to get that refinement. You need to get people to start looking at these ideas.
Oh, well, I honestly feel like every idea is brilliant. It's the execution that's bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to realize, like, I can think of the greatest, artwork in my head, and then I get a pencil in my hand, and I'm like, stick figure, circle that represents a sun with a bunch of shiny lines. Like, unless you have the willingness to work through your skills and execution, your ideas are going to fall flat every time.
And I think, going back to your point about the tabletop gamers, that why like getting that expertise is important is that there's a difference, like, when you're looking at getting information from people about this. Like, somebody who's been around for a long time infinitely has more knowledge than somebody who just started. And you have to understand that they're not saying this because they hate you. And we've said this before, like, there's that mentality that if you hate the project or you find a problem, you hate the person. But no. Like, for me, again, like, when I play a platformer or a roguelike, at this point I've lost count how many platformers I have played, especially over those last 3 months doing research for the book. And at this point, it's like, if you show me a new platform, something that you've worked long and hard on, and I notice like basic fundamental problems, I'm going to tell you about them. And you can say, oh, well, what do you know? And I can throw that back and say, yeah, I've played about 200 platformers in 3 months. Yeah. I think I know what I'm talking about in terms of what this is and what this isn't. And it's not about sugarcoating it or making it better than it is. It's about saying, I've seen, the best version of X. Your game is not like that. And you have to take that advice.
Yeah, and to Board fans' point about a person with less experience can have more knowledge, that's absolutely true. But a more experienced person is likely to know the pitfalls better. Knowledge doesn't get you like experience really does beat you up, and you know what to avoid and what to go for, and certainly knowledge goes a long way. But that's what you get out of the difference between this is a struggle, honestly, especially for someone in my generation, because I did not grow up with colleges that focused on game design, and as much as I wanted that when I was in school,
oh yeah,
it wasn't available. There was like Full Sail, and that was it, and that was prohibitively expensive.
Oh yes, it was.
And then you get into the industry, and someone who's young might be hired up relatively high, but if they're in charge of a team of artists who's been around for 15 years, they're going to struggle. They're not going to know how to manage them. They're not going to know how a game is made in that particular business. That is a brutal way to enter the industry. If you learn about the industry from the inside over the course of years, you do learn what's good and what's not, and how to handle people and how not to. That does not discount the fact that someone can come out of school and be brilliant. But it's like if you look at professional athletes, it's rare is the case that someone comes out of college and is a superstar immediately. It happens maybe once every few years. And that's the same with the games industry. Experience does account for an awful lot. Don't discount experience, but knowledge is a great place to start.
Yeah. And keeping this depressing theme, again, it is very troubling how so many older developers are kind of like thrown out, or not really given like credit or rewards for their work. There are people who've been doing this. You said you've been doing this for about 17 years. There's been people like 20, 30 years. I spoke to that developer who was originally in television back in like the late 70s, early 80s.
Right. That's Bill.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like there are people who will look at that saying, "Oh, there's an expiration date on what it means to be in the game industry." No. Like, as long as you still have your experience, you're still learning, you can do a lot of things. And as you said, experience is a very big part of it. And if you're not willing, or if you discount that, like if you just take like 5 people right fresh out of college who may have gotten the best scores in their game design class, could they actually make a game of the year winning game? I don't know.
I mean, they could.
Yeah.
I know that like developers who are that age have made multiple millions of dollars, but you can count them on one hand usually in a given year. It's just too rare to depend on. So, I mean, it's not about needing to have experience right out of school. It's just about knowing that you might need to gain some. It's about being able to fail and come back. It's about being able to like take your punches and just get there, because you have to survive to getting to that point where you can make a living. That's the reality for most people. And Bill, like you say, he did very well at the beginning because he hooked on to in television at a very early time in the industry. And those guys got like brutal experience because it was so difficult to make a game, so expensive to make a game, and hits and misses would drive people out of business. So you latch on, you get lucky, and then he made a career out of it, making a third party and occasionally first party studio, and they're still going strong. And he's at the point where he employs other people and puts his experience and gives them guidance and and other benefits. And these are people who are local. Like Bill's very local to me where I live now. He's in Orange County, and this is the same area where Blizzard is. And so you get kind of a weird dynamic in this area. There's an awful lot of game devs that you don't ever hear about, including the company I work for, which is odd since we make one of the biggest games in the world. So it's just a strange dynamic. Like the company I've been at, the owners have been doing it 30 years, 25 years, I should say. And they're invaluable, the knowledge they have. It's kind of silly. It is.
Getting to News's point about
I like that idea. I like that idea.
Yeah.
A board fan.
Oh, I want to comment on that too in a second. With News saying he missed the first part of our chat when we talked about how people are taught and raised that they are the chosen one, they can do no wrong. we already had that whole discussion news when this part goes up, when the first part goes up recording. You can you can see our comments on that. But yeah, with Board Fans comment, turn the Masterapprentice system. Well, here's the fun part. How would you define what a master is? Because as we've said before, developers hate labels. They hate establishing those hard rules. Like we said when it came to the blank slate, nobody likes to be told that you can't do something, or that maybe you should do something else. Oh, again, we had that whole argument as to what is a video game. Is Dear Esther a video game? What about Tetris? Oh God, do we? And that's just in the basic level of that kind of discussion.
Yeah, it's a weird environment, and I know a lot of people in my particular generation, certainly or older, love to impart their knowledge. Like it's just something that you just love to do. But I know I've gathered my own, like, I'm good, like whatever happens. I'm kind of good with it these days, because I've just been with myself too long to not have figured it out. I mean, I don't know everything, certainly, and I'm always learning about my own personality, but you know, I think that's something experience has taught me in particular, is that, you know, I'm good where I am. I don't have to be the top dog. I can be kind of the guy in the middle who just helps a team succeed. I try to do that. I'm not the best, but I like to grow and be better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And no, that's not a bad title, board fan. That's something that is, I think it's very rewarding to be able to help someone. That is super rewarding.
Mm-hmm. As Mike, I was just about to say that. Like, again, it's very hard to find advice when you got all these people just throwing out random thoughts on a day-to-day basis. Of course, we've brought out some like the lesser YouTube channels. You know, the game industry is dying. This has been murdered. The secret as to why this was killed and has destroyed the game industry. Stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, again, what's your knowledge? What's your background? And like, you look at their channel, it's like, oh, I've been talking about World of Warcraft fan fiction for 5 years, and now I'm switching over to game design critique, or something like that.
Yeah, the game design already had a massive blow in the 80s that it survived. Mm-hmm. So it's too diverse and makes too much money. Certain areas can die off. Like, I know adventure games died off for a while, and genres are going to come and go, and with technology advancements, you know, things are just going to be left behind. But oddly enough, every genre I've ever heard of still seems to hang around. So even if it goes stagnant for a while.
Yeah. And when I posted about studying game design on Gama Sutra, like, one person said something that was really good, and he said that, you know, once you start like examining games critically, like what I do here at Game Wisdom, you can't stop it. But in the same breath, you can't just say, I play 10,000 video games, I'm the greatest game designer in the world. You know, how many of those games did you actually study? Probably a far less than that. And even if you start studying now, that doesn't retroactively make you an expert. It's one of the best things about doing these classic game streams and such, is that I'm able to go back and play games like Rocky and Bullwinkle, like Michael Jordan. I'm going to try and play Super Mario Brothers for like the first time in like 15-20 years. And I can look at them now critically, rather than playing them as a child back in the 90s and 80s and going, oh, this is stupid, or this stinks, or this is the best game ever. Because that's not really studying video games.
Yeah, interesting thing about going back in time like that is that you're almost inevitably going to, and not always, but you're almost going to be inevitably disappointed going back in time, because it's like games have come so long. Like, you'll look at Super Mario and be like, well, you can't go back. The game progresses. You can't go backwards. That's stupid. The game doesn't have save points. That's stupid. Well, I mean, they were limited by technology, and they innovated greatly. So without Super Mario, I mean, there's a lot of things that don't happen, you know, at least not in this quick a time.
Oh, yeah. And I've developed a thumbnail for this, so I still need to shoot this video about timelessness when it comes to video games. And it's very hard to look at games like that. Again, with everybody spouting all manner of random nonsense and stuff like that, like you have like 10 people saying this is the best game ever and all you guys are stupid. And then another 10 people are going to say, oh no, this is the best game ever, and if you don't play it, you're not a gamer. And
sorry, quick thing. 2K, not EA, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I would be slaughtered if I let it be known that I work for EA. They would kill me back at the office.
Yeah. But yeah, like again, like you have to be able to like examine this stuff critically, and a lot of people. And it's the same as we were saying earlier with like how many people go into YouTube who already have celebrity status and then, trying to use that to leverage knowledge. I don't care, like, for instance, if Will Smith, like he started his own YouTube channel, if he starts covering video games, I am not going to care one iota what Will Smith says about a video game. Because, who is he? Like, what is his background, his knowledge? And I've said this before, that I don't care what the majority of YouTubers talk about with video games. I care what game developers say about video games. And it's why I just don't watch so many other people. Like, I try to tune into people streaming other games. I found like random people streaming like stuff like Resident Evil 4 and stuff like that after I already went through. I'm like, yeah, like, I could just do this thing. I could do it, but do it better. Like, why should I watch them?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to find your place in this YouTube world. It's just a difficult thing overall. Oh yeah, that's right, Mike. He was in Pitfall, wasn't he? He was in the Pitfall ad. Is that the one? And I know Phil Hartman was in the hockey ad for Atari. Oh God, I forgot about that. Oh man. Okay, sorry.
And as News saying, yeah, you can be overly critical, but again, like it's very hard to figure out what that point is. Because again, there are people who will discount any criticism, and you can't really do that either.
And Board Fan, I think that you're right. You can't discount what everybody says. I think that it is tough, when you've done things that long, and it's you watch a bunch of people who haven't done all that, haven't done the work, and it's a little disappointing. Certainly, I'm sure there's a lot of people on YouTube who are good to listen to and can give good knowledge that Josh here can like respond to almost at an equal level, but it's hard to find them.
Yeah. And I've heard about that too, News. I remember seeing a piece about a developer giving like this random Twitch streamer a game for her to play, and she just like messed around for an hour and did absolutely nothing for it, and they started to pay her for that. And again, like there's so many people trying to flaunt, expertise, but it's not something that you can just, pick up one day. You can't just wake up and say, I'm a professional game design critic. And, like you said earlier, Rob, I disagree with your with your opinion about my skills or about my business.
Oh, right. The charging thing. You know what's funny is that the charging thing reminds. I don't know if you guys have watched those either or both of the Fire Festival documentaries, but that has an awful lot to do with people charging money to advertise something to their viewers. And really, when it comes down to it, reviewing a game online, it's about advertising as much as it is about. No, actually, even more than it is about actual feedback. But you get the uninformed spouting stuff about your game, and they in particular got found out and sued and all kinds of garbage. And that's just what you're trying to avoid, I think, these days, because it's a crazy business to get into, and once you start doing payola, you're going to run into problems if not even just waste your money on that.
Yeah. And yeah, it's that thing about, as Board is saying, like too many people get into it just for playing the games just for money, and it's like, okay, well, how does that help this game grow? I actually got a comment from one of the developers who I did an indie game spotlight stream, the one from 2 weeks ago, and he said, thank you for playing the game, I got some useful notes taken down from that. And like as we said, like if you're knowledgeable in your critical about game design, just watching that person play it can be worth its weight in gold. But if you're watching someone who all they're doing is, screaming, ranting, and raving, and, every time somebody donates, they stop the game and they do like a funky little dance, yeah, you're not really getting much feedback or much quality feedback about how your game is.
Yeah, we got one of the games we did. We got someone to do a review or at least a play on their stream, and basically they were just not up to it. They didn't have the skills to play it, and thus they got bored very quickly. So it's even up to the developer and publisher. As I learned very quickly, you should know who you're trying to get your game noticed by. I think it is too. You get wrapped up in having anyone look at your game, let alone someone specific. But you have to really hone down what you want to do and focus on them, focus on getting the good feedback and the quality of reviews. Oh, I don't run one anymore. Per my name, I'll just type it here.
Rob doesn't own 2K, unfortunately. He can't
No,
get
I
the
don't.
Josh box going.
Did that work? There we go. So Indie Voyage was the one I ran, but it's dead. It's been defunct for a little over a year. We did 3 games. Basically, our first one, Reassembly, did really well. It's all 3 of the games I really love, by the way. Zavix Tower is our second, and then Venture Forth was our third. And eventually, we just went out of business. When it came down to it, neither me nor my partner were able to give 100% of our time the whole time. It was either him running it or me running it, and sadly, it just didn't go anywhere. And learned a lot from that. So that was the company I helped run, and then now, I've worked for other companies my whole career. That was kind of a tried to do something, it didn't work out, and move on.
And you were able to bounce back as well. As we said earlier, it's important to be able to understand and be able to survive when things fail.
Yeah,
and
learn from it for sure.
Oh yeah, and that's the other big point. Like we were saying in the first part, like you can make 50 video games, but if you don't learn a damn thing while you're making them, then you're not making progress.
Yeah, it is, and then certainly I always bring up, and I can never remember the name of that company. Probably tell me the name of the company without saying anything about
Grounds?
it. Yes. Oh God, those people who obviously did not learn anything from there. Maybe they did. Maybe they've changed their whole strategy. Maybe he's making good games now. Who knows? But they made enough games to where you're like, they did not learn anything. Oh, I'm not much of a dancer. I'm afraid. Yeah, so maybe that's what makes it worth the money.
Yeah, I'm afraid there's not going to be any amount you're going to be able to donate during a live stream that's going to stop things for an impromptu dance number, Mojo.
Speak for yourself. We all have a price.
Oh, okay.
Mine is $100,000.
Oh, there you go, Mojo. If you want Rob to get up and dance, start.
Wait, hold on. $1 million.
You gotta aim high there, Rob.
Yeah, I keep 100. Wait a minute, that's not going to get me very far. $1 million.
There we go.
I'll dance just for the heck of it. I got $1 million. That's my dollar. Now we're bargaining. I probably would settle for 95,000.
Monopoly currency.
Make all checks payable too.
Let me see. What's our time? Yeah, we just went over 2 hours. I think we'll be going to wrap things up. We kind of did like a depressing rant for the second topic of our stream. So, to lighten things up, tonight I'll be playing Super Mario Brothers 1 through 3. We're going to go through the 3 classic games that I'm sure nobody has ever played before at all.
That's interesting. I think of those 3 games and I'm like, how are you going to do that in one night? But I know a skilled platformer can get through those pretty reasonably, and just remembering my struggles as a kid trying to get through those games. So,
Alright, but I think we're going to wrap it up here. For everybody watching this live recorded, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back around 3:30 p.m. EDT next Sunday. I do my regular streaming nightly around 9:30. And if you would like to watch this ad-free and uncut, check out patreon.com/GWByster. But Rob, thank you so much for coming on. I guess we should both get ready for not watching the Super Bowl in about like 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, I'm getting ready.
Alright. And check out our Discord channel where we hang out and talk. That is all linked down below. Fine, you can check out my first book. It is on the wall back there. Hopefully you guys can actually see it. Just that lovely little image. And I'm still working on trying to get some like physical good going for this site. Trying to go for that whole Josh box idea. But we'll see if people are interested in that. But that is going to do it. So everybody, thanks again for coming out, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where examine the art and science of games. Until our next stream, have a great night.